everyone, this is the Pear-Shaped team, and we're here to talk about a post that you recently wrote up on our website. It's about career plans. I've been sat down very early on in my career when I first started out by people who wanted to give me guidance, and I've always heard that old saying, can you plan out the next 5 years of your career? It seems to be quite commonplace guidance that you hear a lot, but you have a different view on that. So what do you think?
Yeah, it's not necessarily to say that having a 5-year career plan is a bad idea, but I think it's an appreciation of the fact that for some people that may not be the most valuable way to think about their career or the way to plan for their career. As an example from my career, there are opportunities that have presented themselves that I would never have planned for, certainly never would have envisaged I would have ever done. As an example from that, as you know, I was approached about an opportunity to work in New York for a period of time. Not something that I had ever planned for or aimed to do, but when I was approached with that opportunity, it was something that, looking at what I could get from the role, I thought that there was a lot of value and benefit to be had from it, and it was an opportunity in the end I did take, and for me it was a real turning point, I think, in my career. And
that's what a tremendous, life experience as well this was in the early parts of your career.
Yeah.
And you were asked by someone that you respected, a senior who saw value in you and thought that they could send you out to New York and do this project, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it was a very good experience, and I think if I had perhaps had a very, like I said, I was quite young at that point in my career. If I had too much of a defined career plan, I probably would have said, no, I won't do that because it doesn't meet the career titles or the career plans that I had thought that I would be following. But I think just to have some appreciation of the fact that there is benefit in doing something that perhaps is not what something not standard or not what you have on the standard career trajectory.
Yeah, and that's actually something that you mentioned in the post, which I find quite interesting, that I'd like to talk about a little bit here, is not focusing too much on the goal, the career milestone, if you will, but focusing really intently on the short midterm to how you get there and developing the relationships along the way. I mean, for example, like the person who invited you to New York is one of those.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. So, for me, if you imagine this, there's only so many hours in the day, or there's so much time you want to spend thinking about your career. And for me, time spent on spending too much time defining a 5-year career plan is time that I could be, from my perspective, better spent on building my network, building my relationships, building my brand. These are all things that you hear about, and I know sometimes they don't necessarily mean anything, but from my perspective, it's something more tangible than a 5-year career plan. It's something that I can actually do now, and although sometimes the benefit is not immediate, I feel like I have seen more success from spending my time prioritizing those things.
Yeah, and they lead to opportunities for you, which I've seen in your career. Somewhat jealously, I'll be honest, because I'm on the opposite side, working on those plans myself. But we'll come to that at a different time. But you have seen, I think, in your career some good results from that. I mean, very organic ways of people inviting you on to new better things, right?
Yeah, I mean, whenever I've moved either internally within companies or moved locations, as I said, or moved different companies, I think it's happened several times throughout my career, and in each case it's been, I've been asked to do those, or I've been presented with those opportunities from people that within my network I've either worked with or they know of me through my connections and my network and my reputation. So for me, it's a very strong thing to have. It does take time to build, and it's not something that you can easily define or you can easily just do overnight. But I think from my experience, it's something that's proved incredibly valuable throughout my career.
The more I think about it, I actually do find what you're saying quite rare. I think we all, from what I've seen, myself included, we're so career and goal oriented. That's what everyone tells us to do. But you have had actually great success being invited to different roles with different people. That's really quite remarkable, and there's proof in the pudding, really. So that's I think really valuable experience.
Yeah, I think it's some of this is just my general approach to things. When I do roles and when I've worked for people, I think that they get to know me for who I am, and I think that there's value in that. And once people have worked with you, they're usually inclined to, if they like you or they think you do good work, they're usually inclined to ask you and to give you these opportunities. I think it is organic the way that happens. Yeah.
So let's break it down to, I guess, some just detailed practical stuff for anyone who's watching.
Yeah.
If possible. I mean, it sounds wonderful on paper, and I'm also excited now to start doing some of that.
Yeah.
I want to build my relationships, but maybe it's just some quick pointers what you think I could do or people like me could do.
So for me, the way I approach any situation or anything that comes up at work, there's always a new challenge or a new thing to work on, and for me, it's a case of how do I add value for people. So I do something more than what perhaps someone else, my colleague, my peer would do. If I can do something more, I'm adding value. I try to look at the situation from the way that I think my management would see that, or what do they want from this situation, and that's how I add value. That's how I think I distinguish myself from my peers, perhaps. I think at the end of the day, maybe most managers, they want to get the work done, and they want an easy life. Maybe that's not the right word.
I think so.
But if you're someone who can make people's lives easier and get stuff done, I think that there's great value in that. So that mindset of looking from their perspective, trying to understand what it is that they really want from the situation, and thinking about it that way.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about when someone's first starting out in their careers, what sort of approach should they be taking, and what are they focusing on really?
Yeah, I think when you first start out, that is the hardest time. You often don't know, who you are as a person, and you have lots to learn about even just working in an office environment and understanding the politics maybe even, or the structure of how offices work. And I know that, like you said, the standard guidance can be to define your 5-year career plan. And something that I and my peers, when I joined fresh out of university, was a lot of people did spend that time thinking about those 5-year career plans, but I think people got too caught up in the titles of we work in a very hierarchical industry often.
Sure, yeah.
And I think there can be a lot of time spent focusing on I need to be an analyst for 2 years, I've got to get to an associate, and then I've got to get up to a direct, the levels that you need to work through and the times in which you want to do that. There is value there for sure, and I think and that can really demonstrate ambition in terms of what you want out of your career. But from my perspective, I've personally found that there is also value in breadth and different experiences. I haven't necessarily followed that very straightforward trajectory that like you have, for example. There's a very set structure of your career, and mine has been a little bit more all over the place, but I think there's value there. And I think
reflecting on what you've just said, I think actually it seems very important from when you're at the start of the career trajectory. But as you progress and the older you get and the more experience you get, that stuff kind of doesn't so much matter, the titles so much.
Yeah.
It's more about what wealth of experience have you put together over those years.
Yeah, I mean, it does depend on the type of career you're in. I think there's a difference between our industries slightly. But from my perspective, I sometimes think that very formulaic approach generates sort of cookie cutter mindset, very... everybody ends up thinking the same way and has been through the same experience. But the way I think about it, I think there's value in diversity of experience and diversity of thought in a firm, in an institution. And I do think that senior managers also see value in that. So there's no right way, wrong way to do this career. I just think from my perspective, it's just an awareness that you need to find what works for you.
Yeah.
And, what I felt like I was always very much in the minority. So I think it's really about reassuring you that if for you a 5-year career plan does not feel the right thing, or you feel that you don't know what your 5-year career plan is, don't worry that you don't know what it is, because I 5 years ago would never have thought that I am where I am doing what I'm doing. I never would have thought any of my career would have played out the way it did. So and I've had a very exciting, interesting, diverse career, and I love my job. So I get to work with really great people. So I think that's the thing. And think about what matters to you. Do you want the title? Do you want the salary? Or do you want some of that, but you also want to, you're interested, you're motivated by the kind of work you do. You work with really great people who are engaged and intelligent and interesting. What do you want? What aligns with your personality? Do you want to be management? Do you want to be someone who serves and supports others? It's really personal preference. So
yeah, and it's a really long road. So for me, 5 years, what I had that plan to do 5 years ago, as close as I actually got to my 5-year plan, it still was very different to what I first envisaged. You'll never be able to really predict the trajectory you want to be on. It's going to be a completely different scope when you get there. So don't worry so much. That's it for this post, unless you have other comments.
No, that's it.
No, thank you so much. And if you like what we have, please stay tuned. There's lots more to come, and we'll see you on the next one.